Hey guys, Andrew with RCBS here. In this video, we're going to assemble our new Pro Chucker 7 progressive press.
Here's Fred entering his office reloading area with a line of RCBS dies. Modern equipment like this makes it possible for RCBS to turn out precision-eared equipment.
All of your assembly parts can be found in the unboxing video, link in the description below. Now, let's assemble our Pro Chucker 7 progressive press. On a solid bench, use the casting as a template to mount the Pro Chucker 7. If you have limited space or to increase rigidity, try our accessory baseplate. You will need to choose an area with about a foot of clearance on each side of the Pro Chucker 7. If you are not using the accessory baseplate, 3 3/8" bolts will be needed for installation. The lengths of the bolts will be determined by the thickness of your reloading bench. Install the Pro Chucker handle by threading into the toggle block. Tighten with a 9/16 wrench. Remove the plastic tie securing the lockout pin to the ram and remove the lockout pin. The lockout pin can be used with a small lock to secure the press when not in use. Pull the handle down to bring the ram up to the top of the stroke. Install the appropriate primer plug for small or large primers. And tighten with a 7/16 wrench. Bring the handle back up to lower the ram to the bottom of the stroke. Install the primer actuator arm on the side of the press with 4 flat cap head screws using a hex key wrench. Raise the ram to the top of the stroke. Install the primer transfer bar, depending on what size primer is used. Ensure the rear post is pointing upward. The side post needs to be placed to the rear side of the actuator. Next, install the primer dispenser, ensuring the post on the bottom side is inserted into the front hole on the shell plate holder. Secure the dispenser with a button head cap screw using a hex key wrench. Loosely install the transfer bar guide using another button head cap screw in the hole at the end of the primer transfer slot. You may need to adjust its position before operating the press. Install the black steel primer safety shield by threading it into the primer dispenser. Install the appropriate size primer tube depending on primer size, by inserting it down through the safety shield and into the dispenser. The primer tube should extend about 1/4 inch above the safety shield. Install the threaded safety shield cap to secure the primer tube. Lower the ram and push the primer transfer bar forward. Install the transfer bar spring by slipping the ends of the spring over the 2 posts. You may want to use a small screwdriver or hex key if needed. Raise the ram to the middle of the stroke. Set the shell plate holder on top of the lock pin to keep it elevated above the index arm. Insert the detent spring and ball bearing into the hole on the shell plate holder. Ensure the case retaining springs and case eject springs are positioned outward to allow room for the shell plate. Place the appropriate shell plate for your cartridge on top of the shell plate holder. How do you know which size shell plate you'll need for your cartridge? RCBS's shell plate numbers match our shell holder numbers. So, If you're setting up your Pro Chucker to load 223 Remington, you'll use both a shell plate and shell holder number 10. Install the washer and nylock nut on the shoulder bolt. Thread the nut down until snug. Insert a hex key wrench into the shoulder bolt and back the nut off 1/4 of a turn. Be sure the shoulder bolt remains tight. Manually index the shell plate to successive stations. Be sure the shell plate indexes fully and smoothly. If further tightening or loosening of the nylock nut is needed, be sure to use a hex key wrench in the shoulder bolt. This will keep the shoulder bolt from backing out and becoming loose. Be sure not to over tighten or the shell plate will not advance, and you could damage the indexing arm. Remove the lock pin from beneath the shell plate holder and slowly lower the ram to ensure the index arm passes up through the shell plate holder and shell plate. Cycle the press to make sure the shell plate indexes smoothly around all stations. Make sure that the primer transfer bar is working properly and that the primer plug is coming up through the transfer bar and shell plate. Adjust the case eject spring by loosening the set screw. The case eject spring should be set about 3/100ths of an inch above the shell plate. Be sure to tighten the set screw back down. Check for ease of ejection. With the ram in the lowered position, insert the spent primer tube in the hole on the underside of the press. It will pass through the press frame and into the shell plate holder. You may need to loosen the already installed set screw. Make sure the tube is fully inserted into the shell plate holder and secure the set screw. Raise the ram to the top of the press stroke. Attach the discharge chute to the underside of the shell plate holder with a button head cap screw and the lock washer using a hex key wrench. Adjust as needed. To install the die plate, insert the 3 set screws at the top of the press with a hex key wrench. Do not tighten down. Make sure that the countersinks in the die plate lugs are facing up. Insert the die plate lugs into the openings at the top of the press. Rotate the die plate clockwise. Starting with the upper left set screw, working clockwise, secure the die plate. To mount the ammo bin, place the box bracket's right edge about 3/4 of an inch from the press frame and level to your bench top. Secure with the included screws. Your new Pro Chucker 7 should be set up and ready to reload. In our next video, we'll show you how to easily operate your new press. Any questions about this setup process? Drop them in the comments below or reach out to our customer service team at rcbs.com anytime.